Hey you guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. Disclaimer. Everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Okay, so we had an over 8-hour live session yesterday because there was a motion hearing in the Idaho v. Kohberger case. We learned a lot. At the very end of this live, I ran down the notes that I took and said that I was going to clip out just that portion and repost it as just a breakdown. Now, this is just my initial reaction, the things that I caught on my first run through listening to it with you guys live. We are going to be going over it in several other videos, breaking it down into sections. I will be going live tonight, and this will be posting on April the 10th, a few hours before I plan on going live. We're going to go over the text messages and the 911 call information that was spoken about during court. But for now, this is my initial analysis, my initial reaction, and the information I was able to obtain from listening to it. Now, the live itself, again, ended up being 8 hours and I believe 49-ish minutes. I went in, I clipped out me running my mouth at the end because now it's going to be in this video, and everything in the beginning. And every single time that they went into a break in between, I took out all of the silence, all of the conversation. It is just the hearing. So now it is at 6 hours and 15 minutes. A link for that live will be down in the description box. But for right now, let me go ahead and play my initial reactions to what we learned yesterday. The words sociopath, psychopath are basically, don't use them because there's no proof of his diagnosis. At this point, he's like, no, quit your shit. Murder term. It makes sense to be able to use that because the victims were murdered. They were. And it describes the charges and the accusations. They don't need to be pointing at him and calling him a murderer, which is, obviously discouraged. But the term itself, I understand why it's not really a big deal because that's exactly the situation here. That's what's happening. Now, when it came to inflammatory evidence, the only thing that I have down here is that he's basically saying, I shouldn't have to make a ruling for you to follow the rules. Don't do anything dumb. Pretty much like no prosecutorial misconduct, like duh. But then when it comes to the crime scene photos and the videos of, I guess, whatever was taken, then he's saying this stuff is going to be shown because that's the whole reason basically why we're here. And if anything is exceptionally graphic, like I guess if they're showing like the scene itself, like maybe spatter or something like that, then maybe it's just like regular schmegular type thing. But if it gets to where they're having to view somebody in the photo, like one of the victims is in the photo, then it'll be like they're going to talk about it before they decide to, I guess, show it to the jury. The DeSales information, I was really confused, honestly, about the argument they were having with that one because it wasn't labeled as 404 evidence unless I missed something. And it's possible because we didn't get to go through like every single document, but I don't remember them claiming anything was 404 besides the traffic stop because of what Hippler was stating, that it has to be like a bad act. And even though it's just freaking a traffic stop, it's still considered a bad act. Him writing a DeSales paper based on a school assignment is on a bad act. And also him buying something on Amazon isn't a bad act either in itself at all. So yeah, you really can't do that. The family in the courtroom, we just heard his family has no intent whatsoever to like testify against him whatsoever. Like we just heard that said in court. So all this other stuff that's been going on with like certain people that come out here, press and stuff, that doesn't add up to what we just heard. That they're heartbroken and they're freaking out and they're worried and they want to be there and they have no intent whatsoever. That they've never even been like talked to apparently about even testifying. So all of this crazy shit for what? All of this for what? Now, the autism as an aggravator, I think I heard him say that it wasn't allowed. That one I wasn't really too like, I mean, like it matters, but it's also with the fight of like, the defense wants in the opening statement to tell the jury that he has autism. That's what the defense wants. But they don't want the state to then turn around and try to use it as a negative against him for other things. They want it very well known that like some of his behaviors and his mannerisms and things are easily explained away, and maybe these people wouldn't know that it was connected to a medical condition unless it was talked about, which is true. I personally, like, I've seen things and I've like noticed things, but I haven't seen anything that looks as bad as what they're trying to say. But it might be because he's not having to actually view anybody. So we don't really see him staring at people. Like, obviously, he pays attention to who's speaking. The people that are in the courtroom are all behind him, and we never really see him even trying to look at people whenever they used to show him walking in. He would never, like, scan the room. So I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so the IGG, he wants them to figure out basically how the lie is going to be told. That's how I got it. Now I was right. It's pain, which makes the most sense. But he wants them to sit down and agree on how to lie about the freaking tip because it's not a freaking tip. And that basically just got proved even more today because what the frick did they say? What did they say? That the state is like all the complaining about what's going on with the disorganization of the evidence. The state got it the same way, meaning that none of it's theirs. They didn't do none of it. It's just in the disarray that it was handed to them in. That's how that sounded to me. I don't know again about the way that Nowlin is talking about her specific ISP protocols. Again, that really bothers me because that's not the protocols and the ranges of testing that apparently other places use, because the higher level testing programs are showing the things that are being tested for him when it comes to the mixture of DNA in Maddie's fingernails is that he's excluded completely. But this one thing that was created specifically for ISP is stopping Nowlin from saying excluded, and she's using inconclusive based on, again, something specifically created for their own issues at that Idaho State lab, not something that's fundamentally like everywhere. That's kind of stupid and it really shouldn't be happening. The make and model thing, they've continued to state, and the state has also admitted this, there is no continuous loop. We know there was at least 7 makes and models that were actually inputted. We know there was a Nissan before. We know that he was uncomfortable with the year that they were wanting him to claim. All of that's very important because it shows they didn't have an idea about which way they really wanted to go until they had Bryan's name. And then once they had Bryan's information, all these decisions suddenly became a whole lot clearer when it comes to what you're actually looking for. But before that, you weren't even sure about what you were really looking for. It's just wild to me. And then to come out and actually admit that there's over 20,000 of those types of vehicles in the area, you gave us a prelude to the questions that we were going to have about this vehicle because you told us how many was in the area. And on top of that, this was also Parents Weekend at WSU. So there was a whole bunch of other people in the area driving around a whole bunch of other vehicles that are not normally there. That matters too. The whole thing about Dylan apparently claiming to have seen Xana on the floor at the time that the event is happening, that's probably the one that's pissing me off the most. Like, pissing me off the most. Because she's admitting that she saw her, but she's not admitting that at that point in time that it was a scene. Again, at that in that statement of her claiming to have seen Xana, it still goes to drunken on the floor, passed out on the floor from drinking, not, oh, she was covered in red. And then again, at that point in time, that's still admitting that Dylan saw her on the ground, on the floor, and didn't care enough to do shit. I mean, because that just, again, kind of leads to characteristic, right? Like, her personality and the way that she reacts to things is to just not act to things, just to blow it off like it's not happening. Because that's happening in both scenarios there. It's just wild. Absolutely insane. And then also proves that that door was freaking open. That's why, like, that kind of brought me back to whenever we were going over what the analysis with CD guy had been told before December 3rd about what Dylan apparently did, saw, heard, blah, blah, blah. There was a statement in there about how she thought somebody was in there, like, to steal shit. And that goes into one of the 4chan posts about how apparently they heard people rummaging around upstairs for stuff. But he goes into how she apparently thought somebody was in there to steal shit, and she, like, left her room and locked a door and then went back into her room. And so that's whenever I was like, holy shit, is that the reason why Xana's door ended up shut? Because we know apparently the door had to the door had to get opened. And we didn't hear that that was the reason why the 911 call was made. We heard that happening on the 911 call, which threw that entire narrative everywhere. But to know that Dylan is admitting to have seen her on the floor, meaning with the door open, if she's actually on the floor in her bedroom the way she was found, then the door got shut in between that. That's what it sounds like. This is too much. Yeah, and that's a whole nother thing right there. There's no way that you just see her on the floor and don't notice all of those things. But then again, it also goes back to, like, how freaking messed up was this chick? Like, how actually screwed up was she? Because then we also see, like, the text messages and her ability to obviously understand that something's wrong because she's noticeably freaking out. She's voicing the fact that she's freaking out. She's making phone calls. She's sending text messages. So how out of it could she really be to not understand that Xana wasn't just passed out drunk on the floor? None of this is adding up. The text messages between her and her dad, if as long as the BM is not a typo, which they didn't admit to any mistakes on that portion, and we heard the state admit to some mistakes today, but they didn't admit that BM was a mistake, like it should have been BF or somebody. So BM is most likely, yeah, for real, Dylan's father, because we already know that that's also around the same time that we already know from both sides they were communicating with each other. So the messages between the two of them are probably about the 911 call, considering that they're being introduced in during the 911 call scenario. So then we have the dollhouse, and of course the dollhouse isn't even done yet. Are we so for freaking serious right now? We had 2 rounds of Pharaoh scanning. The second one cost more money because it was with a more advanced, upgraded freaking machine. And the freaked up part is that whenever the freaking pre-trial, the preliminary, was finally canceled because he waived his rights, they were like, oh, good, now we have time to go and do this right. So they were going to go to trial in this case way back then on October 2023 and not even have complete information to even be comfortable with and let out a public sigh of relief after he waived his right to a speedy trial. And to this day, it's a dollhouse that's not even completed, not being done by a specialist, like a real dollhouse maker. They have those. It's a trade. It's a thing. They make lots of money. Very delicate, intricate work. Not to scale. They purposely don't give a shit that it's not to scale. They're admitting in the very beginning it doesn't need to be. Yes, it does. Because what's the point of all the money that got spent on it? Like this whole thing is just, I don't understand. Yeah, she was on Indeed and adding new contacts to her phone just a handful of minutes before all this happened. This whole thing doesn't make any sense. And that's another thing. If she apparently is seeing Xana on the floor, thinking that she's just passed out from being drunk at the time of the event, meaning between 4 and 4:20. Okay? What happened to the DoorDash? Like, isn't the whole point of the DoorDash to be like some sort of proof of life for Xana? But then the whole thing about the TikTok got pushed from 4:12 to 3:16? Why is none of this making any sense? Self-authenticating list. Basically, all he said was there's supposed to be some sort of meeting where everyone gets together and agrees on what's admissible and what isn't to confer together on things. So we'll see if they actually do that. Now, when it comes to the alibi stuff, they just keep on like complaining about the fact that no actual human being has come forward and said, oh, he was with me that night. Okay, well, nobody could say that for me either if I didn't have children. All right. So I don't really see the problem with being a loner, you know. I'm just saying, I don't really quite see the problem. So then we get to Cyree. I cannot believe the fact that he was so comfortable saying that this was a conspiracy theory. This is now on the record in the court minutes that will post tomorrow to the public file that he said that everything that Cyree was saying was a conspiracy theory. Now, I will admit, I know for a fact that even looking that he didn't mention the 7 days. The 7th day thing is in the GLDC paperwork. It actually has that stipulation. But I'm really confused about that stuff, guys. I really am really freaking confused about that stuff. Because, you know what? I'm going to pull it up and show you guys this letter that I found. I sent this to a friend of mine, and I was asking him if this is what they're talking about whenever it comes to like the timing advance records, because I am not good with technology. I don't know if this means the same thing. I don't really quite understand how they can say that they can only hold that shit for 7 days, but then they can tell us his phone was pointing him south, whatever the frick, some other time. Like, how can you tell us that information, but then apparently not have the information that would tell you that information? Like that part, I don't really quite comprehendo. Okay, and I'm not afraid to admit that there's some shit that I just don't understand. Okay, what I found here though is an interesting document, and this is why I'm trying to figure out if this is actually what this is, because in Cyree's information, he said something about how GLDC actually didn't start storing like timing advanced record data until May of 2023. If anybody in here of the almost 1,000 people in here knows anything about cell phone stuff,
try to clarify what I'm about to show you guys, okay? So I found this letter, and it is from Joan Marsh, who is the executive vice president of AT&T. And this letter was written because somebody at the White House was asking them how they store location data when it comes to their customers. And in this letter is dated August 3rd of 2022, and GLDC is the company that they claim holds all this information. Not just that, but there's also a statement down here that says that they can hold the information for like 5 years. So I don't know if this is the same thing as timing advanced data, because I don't really quite understand it all. Let me show you again. This letter is dated August 3rd of 2022. The issue that I'm having is, again, the date, and with CyRay claiming that GLDC didn't even start storing timing advanced data until May of 2023. This letter is all about how location data is stored, okay? I am writing in response to your July 19th, 2022 letter to AT&T CEO John Stankey seeking information on our policies and practices regarding the retention and sharing of consumer location information, okay? We go down here to the bottom. You know what? I'll go ahead and put this in here too so you guys can look at this if you want to. I've been wanting to ask about this because I just don't know if this is the same thing or if it's something completely different. I really just don't freaking know. Okay. Right here it says that per their record information management policy, it says all AT&T personnel who create or retain records containing personal information are responsible for maintaining the record security at all stages of the record's life cycle, including using secure disposal methods at the disposition stage. Our RIM policy establishes a retention period of no more than 13 months for information that identifies the current or past location of a specific individual's device, and 5 years for historical call detail records, which include cell site location information. So that sounds like 13 months for very specific device information, but also sounds like 5 years when it comes to call detail records, which includes the site info. And this is where I got confused about it, because it literally says AT&T's Global Legal Demand Center includes a team dedicated to reviewing and responding to extingent requests from law enforcement. So this is before May of 2023. So that's why I was like really confused about what it actually meant. And I'm bringing it up now because we're talking about what CyRay said. Because he didn't mention the 7 days, and the 7-day thing is what's confusing to me, because I don't really know what it means when it comes to this stuff. So I don't know. But I wanted to show y'all that while we were talking about CyRay, because it made me remember. Then we have balance. And it's interesting to me that he's claiming to have seen the information for the 7 minutes that's apparently missing, but he hasn't written anything up on it. Like, how are you supposed to try to use it for something, or try to say that it is something that it's not, or whatever you're going to freaking say whenever you get on the stand? How are you supposed to actually say anything about what actually happened and why there is a discrepancy if you haven't written an analysis on it? And why, after so long, have you not written one? Like, that should have been done already a long time ago. And that's where he was wrong. The judge was wrong about claiming that the PCA says something about him being Southwest. It doesn't. I showed you. I put a clip of it in there. It does not say it, but I can pull it up so I can show you exactly the verbiage that's used. Because I'm really just confused about why she didn't correct him, unless she just didn't catch it. Okay, it says right here at approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage southeast of the Kohberger residence, consistent with the 8458 phone leaving the Kohberger residence and traveling south through Pullman. That would indicate they're trying to say that southeast meaning towards Moscow, not southwest. So the judge was wrong. It doesn't say that at all. And he has to go south to get from his apartment to where that turnoff is. That would determine which way he actually went. So there's that. Apparently Anne's mom just died, and she just did like the whole funeral thing for her mom like 4 days ago, according to the chat comments. So I'm going to cut her some slack because I'm sure that she's like feeling a million different kinds of ways. But the judge shouldn't be just out here willy-nilly saying stuff if he doesn't know for sure what he's saying is factual, because this is a court record. I'm just saying, it's a court record. Now we can get to Dawson. The toxicology report was supposed to just be like, this Dawson guy is just like a rebuttal witness, but it sounds like the toxicology really isn't being argued. It's that the defense has evidence, according to their own experts, that this was done by at least 2 people. According to the autopsies, I guess, which means they most likely did their own measurements and all kind of things when it comes to the weapons, the depth that they went in. There's all kinds of things that they can figure out with that kind of stuff. So they're going to bring that, hopefully. They should be able to, if they can prove it, if it's an expert that says, hey, this is a thing and I'm getting all my information based off of the discovery to have this opinion, it should definitely be allowed. There's no reason for it not to be. But it's really interesting that they're saying that, because we've always thought that regardless of what they were trying to say, this was not a one-man situation. Now, they were right with how strange it is that Michael Douglas FBI guy is suddenly like coming in to talk about everything, including things that he hasn't actually written up an opinion, a report, or an analysis for. Because originally he was just talking about like purchases and stuff, but he's coming in and talking about some other things. I know Amazon's one of them, but there's also another Amazon guy, which the Amazon information is interesting because, again, it's making it sound as if with Massoth claiming that with the Amazon information they got, they have a spreadsheet, and then claiming that on this spreadsheet, there is a purchase for a gift card and then a purchase for a knife. That tells me that since they're claiming that the debit card of Kohberger's, or a debit card of Kohberger's, apparently purchased the gift card, they're not claiming that he then used the gift card and then made the purchase. They're claiming that it's on the same account information, and we already know that it's a family account. So just with that little bit, I am in my brain seeing it, that they are trying to say that he bought the gift card on Amazon with his own debit card on the family account, gifted that gift card to somebody who also uses the family account, and that gift card was used for the purchase. That's how it sounds to me, okay? I don't know if that's what actually is happening, but that's just what the frick it sounds like. And they've also sort of like alluded to that before, again, in like a footnote. I don't remember which document it was because there's been thousands, literally, but I remember that footnote. You're right, he could have gifted the gift card to anyone, but they're saying that that gift card was used on the account. So it would have to be very specific because it's an Amazon family account. That's important to notice from the information. And I swear Hitler said it, and I need to go back and listen to it, but I swear Hitler said something like, you can't really 100% prove who purchased it. It's kind of how it sounded. Again, they want to present to the jury during opening statements that he has autism. Considering, again, that it's not a mental health disorder, that it's a neurological disorder, I don't really see why they shouldn't be able to do so. I don't know what the frick they're going to end up doing with that one. All he said was he was going to take it under advisement. So I guess we're going to see what he does. Now, again, when it comes to the DP, said it already. Said it 1,001 times. I'll say it 1,005. Okay. This is a death penalty case because it's horrific and disgusting and sad, and 4 people lost their lives. And if you are capable of that, then you don't deserve to breathe. I don't really care what diagnosis you got. Okay. Even if Bryan is somehow found guilty of this, I'm not going to be against the DP. Most of you guys know that. They have to prove it, though. Like, if they do some stupid shit and it's like Richard Allen and we get to that point, I'm not going to stop talking there. I'm not going to stop talking there. They have to actually prove their case. You guys already know that I am more than willing to re-pick up the torch, re-pick up the pitchfork if they can prove it. They haven't proved it. We were all holding those torches whenever he was first arrested. But then we started asking questions because information started coming out, and we quickly realized we were being hella lied to. Hella lied to. And it was disgusting and appalling. And that's why so many people are still watching this, because it's disgusting and appalling. What I really am interested in is the tip for a new suspect. Because we know that they were originally following somebody, right? We've already heard in documents, and I think they even said it in court before, but we definitely knew from documents here recently anyway. Like, we've always kind of known because of the cigarette butt thing, but then they started talking about some more stuff and actually calling the person main suspect. Now, granted, we don't know if cigarette person and main suspect person are the same person. We don't. We're just assuming that based off of things. Just like I know that a lot of people think that maybe that Cole guy might have been the main suspect. Technically, we don't have proof that that's true either. We just know that he has his name in the possible DNA likely ratios from the fingernail clipping DNA stuff that happened with Maddie's fingernails. But we really don't have any proof that they are one and the same. We don't, which makes everything a whole lot more confusing because, you know, we've got proof that they did have a lead and they had an AT&T phone and they got all the information, and then they got Bryan's name and they forgot all about that person and the other DNA that came in. And, you know, then we have DNA on the back of the knife sheath that's not Bryan's. You know, there's just so many things that just keep adding up. Like, I know a lot of people keep saying, oh, this is so circumstantial when it comes to Bryan, but it's also just as much circumstantial for when it comes to not Bryan. Like, seriously, if honestly, because of the way that I like see things, it's more so circumstantially not freaking Bryan. It really it really just isn't. Like, I can't even believe that we're still here. I really just can't. I'm just baffled. Honestly, freaking baffled. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Oh, footage of U of I. So I'm wondering if they have like footage of whoever they actually think might be responsible, like on footage in other places. Because at first I thought that she was making a mistake and maybe meant WSU because they were talking about WSU footage earlier. I thought that she like misspoke, but then Xana, I think, stood up, or somebody from the prosecution stood up and said something else about the U of I footage. So I guess they have other camera footage there to be calling it U of I footage, because that would to me mean actual campus grounds. So I wonder what they have, because it'd be super interesting, you know, if they actually had something to do something with, honestly. I don't really think I have anything else in here. But basically he's got decisions he still needs to make, which we kind of figured. I mean, I just probably as easily as I can explain that your DNA is in probably over a dozen people's houses right now. I mean, I'm telling you right now, before I answer any questions to you about DNA, go look up the Lucas Anderson story. I've been telling you that all day. I know that with my Amazon account, like, we're all on the same account. I'm not going to pay for multiple Prime accounts. That's absolutely stupid. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? Pay for one, let everybody use it. What's the problem? Now, again, I'm going to be going live tonight to talk about the text messages and the 911 call information. It'll probably be around 7:30. I will have the link up a little while before I decide to go live. We try to go live every Thursday here on this channel. Unless something pops up, that's how we try to keep it. But for right now, for those of you that have watched it, for those of you that have obtained some new information over the past 24 hours or so, let me know how you guys are feeling about everything so far down in the comments. If you like the way that I present this information and give my opinion, please don't forget to leave a like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. And please don't forget to make sure that that notification bell is set to all so you don't miss any of my rants, reviews, reactions, updates, or deep dives. See y'all.